This lecture is about midpoints. Now, midpoint comprises of two words, mid or middle, and points or point. So, for instance, if we have a line segment, where would the middle of this line segment be? Probably somewhere here. So this midpoint, this middle point, is equidistant from the two endpoints AB. Equidistant means that, let's say if this is 3 meters from A to X, then X to B is also 3 meters. It's equal distances from both A and B. So the midpoint is at an equal distance from endpoints A and B. So we can predict where the midpoint is just by knowing the total length. If you look at the total length of AB, that is 6 meters. So half of 6 is where the midpoint would be. What if we have a graph and a line segment? Where would this midpoint be? So you've got a coordinate over here. Let's say if this is 1 and 2. And we've got this point 5 and 6. So in this case, again, we'll make a right angle triangle. Let's draw that. So let's extend this line. Now we have this right angle triangle, the blue one. Maybe let's use something like this. So now we have this right angle triangle. So now for the midpoint, what we'll do is we'll take the midpoint of the x values.
I'm happy to.
So let's find a point that is equidistant between 1 and 5. So what would that be? And what would be an easy method to determine that? What do you think? So what I would do is a point that would be equidistant. So let's draw a number line just to see. Our starting point is 1. And then we have 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is where we want to end up, right? So what's a point that is equidistant? If I take a leap from 1 to 3 and then 3 to 5, is that the equivalent leap or jump? It is. Therefore, 3 will be the midpoint. But mathematically, you can't always do jumps like this. For smaller numbers, it's easier. But for bigger numbers, like let's say if you were jumping from 1 till, you had to go till 492. Now that wouldn't be an easy number that you could just explore and determine. So let's find or use a mathematical or an arithmetical method to determine this. All right. So we want the midpoint, right? So the easiest way is to take the average or the mean of the two x values. So if we take the mean of the x values, that would be 1 plus 5, the sum of both the x values, and there are two values, so we'll divide by 2. So we'll get 6 divided by 2 or 3, which gives us this point. Now can we use the same approach for the x coordinate over here? for these 2 points. So let's, sorry, the y coordinate over here, so 2 and 6. So again, let's use the mean of the y values. So we get 2 plus 6 over 2, which is 8 divided by 2, and gives us 4, which would be right here, equidistant. So 2, 4, 6, right? So where do these 2 points meet? They meet at this point. That becomes the midpoint of the line. So the midpoint of the line is 3, 4. Now what if we did not have numerical values? Let's say if the graph is drawn and we know this is x1, this is x2, this is y1, and this is y2. Remember where I'm writing the 1, 2 in these cases, it is not like exponent. So in an exponent, we'll write x squared, x cubed, and so on. So this can be evaluated. You can find a value for it. But with notation, like what we have right now, x1, y1, x2, y2. This is just notation. Does not have a value. Okay? So these are just notations, x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's do our triangle as we did earlier. So let's make our right angle triangle. So draw that. Draw that. Draw that. And then let's take the midpoint or the mean of the x values and the y values. So if we were to take the mean of x values, remember mean is also average. Average or mean of x values, you would add the two x's and divide by two values. Then the mean of y values would be y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So the midpoint is this set of points. So basically our answer is right here. This is our point. So it's x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So that's our midpoint. This is our midpoint. And what are the coordinates? X1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Now another set of questions that you could come across. So if you have, let's say if these details are provided to you. So one pair of coordinates this is given and the midpoint. And now we are trying to find other pair of coordinates. How would we approach this question? So let's say if the graph is like here, and let's say if this is 1 and 3, and this is 3 and 5. This is the midpoint. Let's call it M. Now we are trying to find out this point. So let's just call it X and Y. right? So there are a few things that are given. So one pair of coordinates is given, which is 1 comma 3, and the midpoint is given, which is 3 comma 5, and then we are trying to find out x and y, right? Now we already found out in the previous slide, we found out that the midpoint formula is you add both the x's and you divide by 2, and you add both the y's and you divide by 2. So let's use what's on our chart right now and try to find out what we have. What pieces of information do we have? So we know the midpoint, so that is right here. And the other coordinates are over here. So this point and this point will fit in over here. Okay? So let's plug in the midpoint. The midpoint is 3 comma 5. And let's plug in these values. So one of the x1 values, we can take this as 1, and the x2 value is x divided by 2, and then the other y1 value is here, which is 3, plus y2 is over here, y divided by 2. So now we got this. Now we'll just compare. So 3 will be equal to the x part and 5 will be equal to the y part. And let's solve this. So 3 is equal to 1 plus x divided by 2. If you remember SAD map. Now we have division. So what's the opposite? Multiply. So let's multiply. So what's 2 times 3? 6. 1 plus x. This 2 will cancel. And then we have addition. So let's subtract 1. So x is equal to 5. So we found this value. This value right here. Now we just need the y value. So we'll do the same thing. So let's take the y and equate it to this. So 5 is equal to 3 plus y divided by 2. Again, use SAD map. You see division. So multiply 2, you'll get 10 is equal to 3 plus y. And then subtract 3. So y is 7. So this value is 7. That's how we'll find our equation. So in summary, what all do we know? If we have a line segment like this, the best way to do is, if you have two values x1 and x2, to find the mid value or the midpoint, we'll add both our x values and divide by 2. Now this can be extended to a graph where you have x1 and x2 and you have y1 and y2. Whenever you see a straight line, the best way to work with straight lines is make a right angled triangle that meets at 90 degrees. And then we'll take the midpoint of these values. So what's the average of this? We'll just use what we learned earlier. So we get x1 plus x2 over 2. And then what's the average of this? That is y1 plus y2 over 2. So this point where they meet is our midpoint. So it's important that you remember this. This will help you solve a lot of questions. So this is your equation, expression, x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And the last case that we have is if we have one pair of coordinate and midpoint, and we are trying to find other pair of coordinate. This is our question. So we'll write our midpoint and we'll equate it to x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Our variables will be over here and here, and then we use SAD map by equating each aspect of our midpoint coordinate. Okay, this will be helpful for the assigned task.